The 2011 tornado season was one of the most devastating in U.S. history, marked by a record-breaking number of powerful and deadly tornadoes. Over 1,690 confirmed tornadoes to touch down across the country that year, making it the second most active tornado year on record. What made 2011 especially catastrophic was the unusual frequency and intensity of the storms. A staggering 6 EF5 tornadoes, the strongest possible on the enhanced Fujita scale, occurred that year. These EF5s struck cities and towns with incredible force, leveling entire neighborhoods with wind speeds over 200 miles per hour. The April 25th through 28th super outbreak, which spawned over 360 tornadoes across 21 states, including 4 EF5s that all occurred in the evening of April 27th. The Philadelphia, Mississippi EF5, the Hackleburg, Campbell, Alabama EF5, the Smithville, Mississippi EF5, and finally the Rainsville, Alabama EF5 tornado. The 2011 super outbreak was the largest tornado outbreak ever recorded with 324 fatalities. Less than 1 month later, the historic May 22nd Joplin, Missouri EF5 tornado occurred. It was one of the single deadliest in U.S. history, killing 158 people and causing $2.8 billion in damages. And just 2 days after, the May 24th El Reno, Piedmont, Oklahoma EF5 tornado occurred. It was on the ground for a staggering 1 hour and 44 minutes. Today, we're going to see real footage of each EF5 that happened in this historic year and dive into what made them especially horrifying. Hello, and welcome to Deadliest Disasters. On April 27, 2011, an almost unimaginable fury descended upon the southeastern United States. In a span of just hours, 4 separate tornadoes, each rated EF5 on the enhanced Fujita scale, carved paths of unprecedented devastation in modern meteorological records. Houses were obliterated, vehicles hurled like toys, and the very earth was scarred by debris. For the survivors, the scene was nothing short of apocalyptic. Neighborhood after neighborhood reduced to splinters and steel. Trees stripped of bark and branches, pavement gouged and torn. A deep trough of low pressure dug into the Central Plains, drawing warm, moisture-laden air northward from the Gulf of Mexico. At mid-levels of the atmosphere, a vigorous jet stream streaked overhead, its winds in excess of 120 knots, providing the lateral shear necessary for supercell organization. Surface temperatures in the lower Mississippi Valley soared into the mid-80s, with dew points rising into the upper 70s. These values more typical of midsummer than spring, generating a huge amount of convective available potential energy known as CAPE. Within this environment, discrete thunderstorms erupted along a dry line in western Arkansas during the afternoon of April 25th. But it was the slow excavation of the trough and steady influx of Gulf moisture over the next 2 days that primed the atmosphere for catastrophe. By April 26th, clusters of supercells, which are storms characterized by persistent, rotating updrafts called mesocyclones, had begun ripping across Mississippi and Alabama, producing several long-track EF3 and EF4 tornadoes. Yet forecasters still anticipated worse. The Storm Prediction Center had issued a rare high-risk outlook for April 27th, signaling their expectation of numerous intense tornadoes and possible EF5 events. April 27th began with dew points lingering near 78 Fahrenheit across central Alabama, creating an atmosphere saturated with latent energy. Weather balloon data from Birmingham, Alabama revealed a deep, unstable boundary layer capped by a strong, dry mid-level inversion. Once this cap collapsed under intense surface heating, explosive updrafts surge upward. The CAPE was measured at one of the highest values ever recorded in the region, providing immense vertical energy. Equally important was the wind profile. From the surface up to 6 kilometers, winds veered from southeast at 20 knots to west-northwest at over 60 knots, yielding bulk shear exceeding 60 knots. This pronounced shear fostered the development of discrete, long-lived supercells, each capable of spawning violent, slow-moving tornadoes. A slow-moving cold front served as a focus for storm initiation, while a residual outflow boundary from the previous night's storms acted as a highway guiding new supercells directly across densely populated towns. Meteorological models and forecasters recognized the threat. The Storm Prediction Center's mesoscale discussion warned of parameters supportive of violent tornadoes. Despite the aggressive warnings, the sheer scale of the outbreak, over 360 confirmed tornadoes across 4 days, overwhelmed warning systems and emergency resources, leaving some communities with mere minutes to seek shelter before encountering the unimaginable. In mid-afternoon, a discrete supercell north of Jackson, Mississippi spawned its tornado west of the city before racing northeast toward Philadelphia, Mississippi. Witnesses described a black wedge over half a mile wide plowing through the eastern edge of the town. Entire blocks of modest frame homes vanished, only foundations remained. Vehicles, picked up like matchsticks, littered fields hundreds of yards away. Asphalt on local roads was scoured clean, revealing raw, sandy soil beneath. Trees were snapped off at trunk level, their limbs penetrated into the earth like arrows. Emergency responders arriving on scene found residents wandering in shock amidst a moonscape of splintered timber and twisted metal. The storm claimed 3 lives and injured 8 more, all from homes that collapsed without warning as the tornado's 900-yard-wide core demolished everything in its path. In the late afternoon light, an even more massive tornado spun up near Hackleburg, leaving a nearly 1.25-mile-wide swath of ruin for over 100 miles. Entire downtown districts were reduced to rubble. Brick buildings collapsed into dust, store signs torn from girders and wrapped around trees like ribbons. The storm's intense suction ripped hundreds of parked cars from lots, mangling them into unrecognizable heaps. In Phil Campbell, a quaint small town that had known no tornado stronger than EF2 in living memory, dozens more lost their lives as their homes were sheared from foundations. The death toll eventually climbed to 71, with well over 145 injured. In the immediate aftermath, vast volunteer armies converged on the area, attempting to pull survivors from debris while battling thunderstorms and darkness. This was the deadliest tornado of the 2011 super outbreak and the most powerful tornado the towns have ever witnessed. As the Hackleburg-Phil Campbell storm continued northeast into Tennessee, a new EF5 tornado touched down near Smithville, Mississippi. Neighborhoods were annihilated. Entire blocks of single-family homes vanished, leaving pools of water where streets once lay. Debris was pulverized into fine splinters, heavy steel machinery, tractors and backhoes were fragmented or launched hundreds of yards like missiles. Residents who huddled in small safe rooms described walls imploding inward as the tornado's pressure drop reached an estimated 10 millibars per second. 23 people perished that day, over 137 suffered injuries, and many more faced the trauma of witnessing loved ones' final moments while clinging to hope and concrete shelters that buckled under the onslaught. In the early evening, the same parent supercell that ravaged Geraldine, Alabama, produced an EF5 tornado near Rainsville. In less than 2 minutes, entire manufactured home communities were swept clean. Trailers were mangled beyond recognition, occupants were found with severe blunt force trauma and deep lacerations. The tornado ripped through a dense suburban neighborhood, debarking trees entirely, hurling lumber like javelins. Concrete foundations were fractured and communities forever changed, a testament to the storm's raw power. 25 people died in a matter of minutes. Dozens more were rushed to hospitals with life-threatening injuries. Communications were severed as power and cell phone towers collapsed, slowing rescue efforts and forcing first responders to navigate by landmarks that had nearly vanished off the face of the earth. While the 4 EF5s dominated headlines, the outbreak spawned dozens of other violent twisters. In Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, an EF4 carved a 64-mile track through urban neighborhoods, killing 64 and injuring over 1,000. In Muscle Shoals, Alabama, an EF4 leveled trailer parks and snapped century-old oak trees, leaving residents with life-changing injuries. Each of these storms further taxed already stretched rescue and medical resources, underscoring how a single day's atmospheric volatility can overwhelm even the most robust emergency systems. Overall, the April 25th through 28th outbreak claimed 324 lives and injured more than 3,000 people. Total damages estimated at $10.2 billion, making it the costliest tornado event in U.S. history. Economically, entire industries, construction, forestry, agriculture, faced years of recovery. Psychologically, survivors reported surges of post-traumatic stress disorder, nightmares of collapsing walls, and hypervigilance to every distant rumble of thunder. Communities rallied, forming mutual aid networks, but the emotional scars persisted. Memorials sprang up, simple crosses marking foundations, sculptural walls bearing victims' names. In the wake of the outbreak, meteorologists gained invaluable insights. Mobile Doppler deployments captured wind speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour, mere yards above the ground, a sobering confirmation of EF5 thresholds. Forecasters refined convective allowing models to better simulate the explosive storm growth rates seen on April 27th. Social scientists studied warning response behaviors, leading to public education campaigns stressing the importance of immediate sheltering in interior, windowless rooms rather than bathtubs or closets prone to collapse. While the trends remain uncertain, the 2011 super outbreak stands as a stark benchmark. If atmospheric ingredients align in similar fashion, communities must be prepared for devastation on an even larger scale. April 27, 2011 will forever be etched in history. In a single afternoon, 4 EF5 tornadoes demonstrated nature's capacity for wholesale destruction, tearing homes from foundations, stripping forests bare, and claiming hundreds of lives, forever changing communities and the people that called it home. May 22, 2011, a date that left a scar across the face of Joplin, Missouri, and seared itself into American meteorological history. At 5:34 p.m., a supercell thunderstorm birthed something monstrous, a tornado so powerful, so utterly destructive that it would become the deadliest single tornado in the United States in over 60 years. An EF5 tornado, the most violent category on the enhanced Fujita scale, with winds estimated to exceed 200 miles per hour, and it came with destructive purpose. The day began like many others in late spring, humid, hot, and deceptively calm. But meteorologists were already uneasy. The Storm Prediction Center had issued a moderate risk for severe weather over parts of the Midwest. And with the 2011 super outbreak having occurred a month earlier, the nation was waiting for what could come next. What made this particular storm different was the rare confluence of conditions: a warm, moist air mass from the Gulf, a cold front diving in from the north, and a dry line slicing in from the west. It created a perfect atmospheric cocktail. Wind shear, the change in wind speed and direction with height, allowed the storm to rotate.
At 5:14 p.m. Central Daylight Time, National Weather Service Doppler radar indicated a tornado near Riverton, or 4 miles north of Baxter Springs, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. Locations impacted include Baxter Springs, Cliff Village, Dennis Acres, Diamond, Dunwick, Duckwain, Joplin.
By the time the tornado touched down on the western edge of Joplin, it was already a swirling menace. But within minutes, it intensified into a beast that defied understanding.
those clouds rotating, and it looks like between Joplin, Iron Gates is going to see that rotation as well. Right now, we don't have reports of a confirmed tornado on the ground, but we do have National Weather Service personnel stating that Galena has a public report of a funnel cloud. Public report meaning that one of their train spotters hasn't seen it, but there's our tower cam.
That would appear to be a power flash. That could be from a lightning strike, but that is the portion of the storm that we have been concerned with.
Tornado sirens once again.
Tornado sirens once again going off in Joplin. Those are definitely power flashes that we are seeing on the ground.
Notify, large tornado on the ground doing massive damage.
Live in southern Jasper, northern Newton. Take cover.
Yes, please.
Right now.
Please,
I am telling you to take cover.
Take cover right now.
We do have a
Folks,
tornado on the ground.
This is a tornado. Yeah, this is a very dangerous situation. We cannot stress this enough. If you are in Joplin, please take cover.
In just 38 minutes, the tornado carved a path over 22 miles long and up to 1 mile wide. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to kindling. Homes ripped from foundations, steel beams twisted like ribbon, and trees stripped to skeletons. The St. John's Regional Medical Center, a modern, reinforced hospital, was severely damaged and had to be evacuated. Ambulances lined the streets as nurses tended to patients by flashlight in parking lots. Even the dead were not spared. A local funeral home was completely obliterated, scattering caskets into open fields. By the time the winds died, 158 people were dead. Among them were children, elderly, and entire families. And over 1,150 others were injured, some crushed beneath rubble, some impaled by flying debris, and others burned by exploding gas lines. This EF5 tornado shattered historical records of what a destructive storm can be. The enhanced Fujita scale rates tornadoes based on the damage they cause. EF5 is the highest tier, reserved for twisters that obliterate well-built homes, throw cars like toys, and debark trees. Less than 0.1% of tornadoes ever reach this EF5 level. In Joplin, scientists found asphalt ripped from roads, concrete barriers thrown hundreds of feet, and school buses wrapped around poles. The National Weather Service noted multiple vortex structures, meaning smaller tornadoes spun within the larger one, a chaotic engine of devastation. One particularly haunting image, a single bathtub lodged in the branches of a 50-foot tree. One mother searched through rubble for 3 days, only to find her son's baseball glove, but never his body. A high school graduation was scheduled for that very evening. Some students never made it to the stage. Volunteers worked around the clock to clear debris. Churches became morgues. The smell of broken pine, wet earth, and something darker hung in the air. In the days following the tornado, a new, quieter killer began to emerge. One invisible to the eye and deadly in ways no siren could warn against. Mucormycosis, a rare but aggressive fungal infection, began appearing in survivors. The cause? Fungal spores, mucorales, introduced into wounds via debris, soil, gravel, and wood splinters. Survivors with open injuries unknowingly became hosts to the fungus.
It's really quite rare. I've never seen a case in over 30 years.
Dr. Craig Sanford says the infection's caused by exposure to a fungus found in soil and decaying vegetation. It can kill as many as half of those infected.
With the winds, it stirs up the fungi and the spores, so therefore we inhale those. Or if you get it on some debris that can poke your skin.
The common fungus, which lives in soil, wood, or water, usually has no effect on people. But once it is introduced deep into the body through a blunt trauma puncture wound, it can grow quickly if the proper medical response is not immediate. The infection spread rapidly through tissue and into the bloodstream. Symptoms included blackened skin, necrosis, facial swelling, and seizures. Doctors described it as a flesh-eating fungus. The only treatments were immediate surgical removal of infected tissue, often including amputation and powerful antifungal medications. At least 13 people were infected, and 5 died. Some survivors lost limbs, others bore wounds deeper than skin. This is one of the biggest mass infections of mucormycosis in U.S. history. But in the face of tragedy, Joplin did not break. It bent, but it rebuilt. Over $2 billion in damage had been done and more than 7,500 homes destroyed, but the community came together. Survivors volunteered to help others, churches opened their doors, and strangers became family. Memorials now stand where lives were lost. One bears 161 names, the 158 who died that day, and 3 others who succumbed to storm-related trauma in the aftermath. Each spring, the sirens in Joplin are tested, and each spring, the people remember. Oklahoma is synonymous with tornadoes. Nestled in the heart of Tornado Alley, the state routinely faces severe weather conditions fueled by unique meteorological ingredients. Oklahoma's location in the central United States places it squarely in what is known as Tornado Alley, a region especially prone to violent storms. The state's vast, open plains allow for little to no disruption of air masses, while its position right in the middle of the warm, moist air flowing from the Gulf of Mexico and the cold, dry air originating from the Rocky Mountains creates an explosive recipe for severe thunderstorms. El Reno, about 30 miles west of Oklahoma City, sits center in the state of Oklahoma. In this region, atmospheric conditions frequently align to produce rotating supercells, the thunderstorms that often spawn the most dangerous tornadoes. In the spring months, these factors converge with seasonal trends. As the sun heats the ground and the days lengthen, the increased surface heating further destabilizes the atmosphere. This seasonal warming, combined with favorable dynamics aloft, primes the region for tornado outbreaks. Thus, Oklahoma is hit year after year by a barrage of tornadoes, ranging from relatively weak funnels to the most violent, long-track tornadoes that can leave communities devastated. On a fateful day in 2011, one of the strongest and most destructive tornadoes in Oklahoma's history touched down near El Reno, Piedmont, and Guthrie. Rated EF5 on the enhanced Fujita scale, this tornado was not only a meteorological anomaly due to its intensity, but also a tragic event with significant human consequences. Less than 0.1% of tornadoes that occur in the United States are rated EF5. The EF5 classification indicates wind speeds that exceed 200 miles per hour and damage so severe that even well-constructed buildings are completely obliterated. As the tornado moved through its path, it demolished structures, overturned vehicles, and left behind scenes of widespread devastation. A strong tornado like the one that hit El Reno was no surprise. The atmospheric conditions on that day were textbook for an extreme supercell thunderstorm. A potent mix of high moisture, intense surface heating, and extraordinary wind shear set the stage for tornado genesis. The mesocyclone within the supercell evolved rapidly, tightening into an extreme, compact, yet incredibly powerful vortex. Radar imagery later revealed the tornado's enormous size, with swirling debris cloud that far exceeded the dimensions typically associated with even the most intense tornadoes. The unusual breadth of the vortex, coupled with multi-vortex structure, added to its destructive potential. In some areas along its path, winds were estimated to be well over the threshold for even the most hardened structures to withstand. Tragically, the 2011 tornado claimed 9 lives and injured 181 more. The high fatality rate can be attributed to several converging factors. First, the tornado struck a region where communities had limited access to reinforced shelters or updated building infrastructure, leaving residents vulnerable to the extreme winds. Additionally, the sheer size and speed of the tornado meant that even well-prepared individuals sometimes found it difficult to escape its path. The tornado was on the ground for 1 hour and 44 minutes with a path length of 63 miles. In many instances, the tornado's path through less densely populated rural zones did not preclude significant loss of life, as the homes and structures encountered were not built to withstand such extremity. The economic impact was equally severe, with extensive damage to both residential and commercial properties, necessitating a long road to recovery for the affected communities. Several unique factors set the 2011 EF5 tornado apart from more typical tornado events. One remarkable aspect was its extraordinary scale and intensity combined with multi-vortex structure. Unlike many tornadoes that remain relatively narrow, this EF5 displayed a wide area impact that challenged existing models of tornado formation. Its rapid intensification and ability to maintain extreme wind speeds over a wide path made it subject of intense study among meteorologists. 2011 was a very prolific year for tornadoes and tornado-associated fatalities, with multiple destructive outbreaks. The El Reno Piedmont tornado occurred during an outbreak across Oklahoma and the Great Plains that produced multiple strong to violent tornadoes near the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, which was itself part of a tornado outbreak sequence spanning from May 21st to the 26th. The Oklahoma storms came just 2 days after a devastating EF5 tornado that struck Joplin, Missouri, which killed 158 people and became the costliest tornado in U.S. history. Moreover, this event prompted critical evaluations of emergency preparedness in rural communities where building codes and warning systems had not kept pace with the evolving threat posed by such supercell storms. The lessons learned from the 2011 event have since influenced improvements in meteorological forecasting and public safety planning. Oklahoma's unique position in Tornado Alley serves as both a natural laboratory and a cautionary tale. The state's geographic and meteorological traits create an environment that, almost by design, produces some of the most dangerous tornadoes known to man. The experiences of El Reno and countless other communities across Oklahoma highlight an enduring truth. While scientists and engineers can improve our capacity to predict and mitigate severe weather, it's up to the individual to stay safe during times of extreme weather events. Thank you all for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover. This has been Deadliest Disasters.